Sometimes betrayal doesn't come like a knife to the back. It comes as a quiet question over a glass of wine, spoken in a voice that no longer holds any love. You live beside someone who wears your shirt, makes your breakfast, and looks at you like you're just another piece of furniture. You smile back while your inner world collapses under the weight of her late-night disappearances, unfamiliar scents, strange new names, and shifting rules never meant for you. And then someone else shows up, someone who doesn't demand proof, doesn't cast blame, doesn't punish you with silence, someone who just listens. And in that moment, you finally realize you're not the crazy one. You didn't ruin anything. You didn't lose your grip. Someone simply stopped valuing what you gave and started replacing love with convenience. So here's the question. When the game stops being fair, do you keep playing? Or do you stand up, walk away, and take your life back one step at a time? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. Let me be blunt. I never pictured myself living through something like this. My name's Damon. I'm 34, and what I'm about to share feels less like a chapter of my life and more like a plot twist from a bizarre indie movie. But this isn't fiction. This is real. Every awkward, bewildering, gut-wrenching second of it. It all started on a completely ordinary Tuesday evening. I was slumped over the kitchen counter, wearing the same pair of worn-out sweatpants I always did, half listening to a background documentary I can't even remember now. My wife, Marissa, was nearby, humming quietly while she poured herself a glass of red. She was barefoot, wearing one of my oversized shirts, and looked so effortlessly beautiful. I caught myself thinking how crazy it was that I still felt the same way about her as I did the day we got married. Then she said it, like she was asking whether we should order sushi. "Damon, have you ever thought about opening up the marriage?" I laughed. I mean, full-on belly laughed, assuming she was joking. But then I looked at her. She wasn't smiling. Her face was calm, composed, like she'd been waiting for the right moment to deliver a line she'd rehearsed in front of a mirror. "I'm serious," she added softly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "It's been 10 years. We've kind of plateaued. Maybe we need something new." She sipped her wine like nothing was out of the ordinary, while my heart pounded loud enough to drown out my thoughts. I asked her what exactly she meant, and she launched into this speech, one I'm sure she'd prepared. It was all about personal growth, freedom, how love evolves over time. She brought up friends of hers, young, wild, liberated, who were supposedly thriving in open relationships. "But we're not broken," I said. "We're not lost." "Are you bored?" I asked. She didn't confirm it, but she didn't deny it either. That night, sleep evaded me. I just stared up at the ceiling in the dark, while Marissa snored gently beside me. At some point, her phone buzzed. Once, then again. I didn't look. I already knew. By morning, she was back to flipping pancakes like we hadn't just torn a seam in our marriage and left it dangling next to the coffee maker. Over the following days, she brought it up more frequently, her tone softer each time. "No pressure, just something to think about," she'd say. We'd set our own boundaries. And me? I gave in, out of fear. Fear that saying no would make her hate me, or worse, make her leave. So I agreed, nauseous, uncertain, and already grieving something I couldn't name. What followed felt like being strapped to a slow-moving train headed straight for disaster. Within days, she changed. There was a glow about her I hadn't seen in years. Her hair looked shinier, her makeup more daring. She started staying out late. Girls' nights, reconnecting with old friends, hopping from bar to bar. She'd leave smelling like her usual perfume and return with the faint scent of something different. Nights out turned into full weekends away. Her smiles grew sly. And me? I was home reheating leftovers, lying to myself that I could handle it, that I was being strong, but inside, I was crumbling. One night, she rolled in around 3 a.m., tipsy and radiant. She kicked off her heels, collapsed onto the couch, and said, "I had the best night with Connor. You two would actually get along." Connor. I didn't know the name, had never heard it before. I didn't respond, just sat there and watched her fall asleep mid-sentence. The next day, I noticed her toothbrush had changed. Different color, different brand. It was like even the smallest details of her had been swapped out. The woman I married was disappearing in front of me, and still, I stayed. I shoved all the hurt and rage and confusion deep down until it finally exploded in the most public, humiliating way possible, at a family barbecue. Her cousin cracked a joke that shattered whatever was left of my composure. "So it's true, huh, Damon?" He laughed. "You and Marissa are open now? Heard she's enjoying the buffet." I just stood there, frozen. By the grill, balancing a plate of ribs, was Lena, Marissa's younger cousin, the one Marissa always described as immature and overdramatic, the one who'd moved to Portland and only popped in for weddings or holidays. She looked at me, not with amusement, but with something else, something closer to sympathy, like she knew more than she was letting on, like I was about to find out. A week after that barbecue, I got a message. From Lena. "Hey, hope that cookout didn't totally wreck your night. If you ever need to talk, I've got wine and a pair of ears. Zero judgment." I stared at my screen. Hardly anyone knew what was really going on. Just a few close friends. Marissa had curated this perfect little image for her family. Modern, edgy, fearless love. She never mentioned the lonely nights I spent wondering what I'd done wrong. But Lena? She saw through it. I wrote back. At first, our messages were light. Jokes, gossip, harmless stuff about her aunt's weird potato salad. But slowly, things shifted. The sarcasm gave way to something more honest. She asked me questions no one else had dared to. "Are you really okay with this? Or are you just pretending to be?" I didn't know how to answer. A few days later, she called. Her voice was steady, clear, but behind it was a kind of softness, a sincerity that made it obvious she wasn't just asking questions to fill silence. She meant them. One phone call turned into several, and by the following Thursday evening, I was driving across town to meet her over coffee. I waited at a patio table as she arrived, jeans and a hoodie, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, no makeup, no scent, no mask, just Lena. She walked up, gave a quiet, "Hey," and smiled, not in a flirtatious way, but the kind of smile that makes you feel seen. We ended up talking for hours. I shared everything, from the first night Marissa suggested opening our marriage, how I'd assumed it was some strange test of loyalty, and how I'd gone along with it out of fear, not desire. I told Lena about Connor, about that second toothbrush that never moved, about how silence had become the only thing left in our home. She never interrupted. She didn't try to analyze or advise. She just listened. Sometimes she'd shake her head slightly and murmur, "That's just not right." And when I finally admitted, "I don't even recognize myself anymore," she leaned in a little and said, "Then maybe it's time to find out who you are." We didn't kiss that night, but something changed in me. I didn't feel small or invisible. I felt known, and Marissa picked up on it the moment I came home. "Well, would you look at that?" she scoffed, swirling her drink. "Someone grew a spine. Who is she?" I froze. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't bullshit me, Damon," she said. "You've got that look, like someone finally saw you." Her tone was mocking, but her eyes were sharp. I didn't respond. I didn't owe her anything, but from that point on, something shifted. She started snooping through my phone when I was in the shower, asking sudden, loaded questions and comparing answers like she was piecing together a case file, yet she still went out, night after night, doing whatever she pleased. One evening, after another of her late returns, I asked quietly, "Is this still working for you?" She tilted her head. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this setup, this open thing, I don't think it was ever mutual. I think it was always about you. And I just kept hoping one day you'd choose me again." Her smirk faded. "So what? You want to end it now because you've got someone new?" I met her gaze. "No. I want something real, built on honesty. And if that's not something I can have with you, then I'll find it elsewhere." She didn't have a clever line ready this time. The next morning, my phone buzzed with texts. One from a mutual friend. "Marissa's freaking out. Says you're leaving her for someone younger." Another from her mom. "Stop stirring up drama." I ignored them. Instead, I spent that weekend with Lena. We hiked a trail, just the two of us. At the top, we sat side by side, our feet hanging over the ledge, the wind teasing her hair. "This is going to blow everything up," she said. "She's going to hate me. Maybe forever." I nodded. "I know, but I've been living in her world for so long I forgot what it feels like to breathe." She didn't answer with words. She kissed me. No show, no expectations, just two people in a quiet moment that felt like truth. I didn't go home that night, and when I did the next day, I found the locks changed. My suitcase was on the porch, a neon sticky note slapped on top. "Enjoy your freedom." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because, for once, she'd given me something honest, a door out, and I was finally ready to walk through it. What she didn't know was this: I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. She had started this game, and now I was going to finish it on my terms. I moved into a small, furnished apartment a few blocks from the firm. It wasn't impressive. Creaky floors, weird plumbing, a view of a brick wall, but it was mine. No more waiting for her to come home. No more second-guessing who she was with or why she was late. No more pretending. But Marissa wasn't one to disappear quietly. Her Instagram soon exploded with cryptic black and white posts. Mopey quotes like, "Loyalty is rare, don't destroy it," or "The deepest wounds come from those we trust." Pretty soon, people started messaging me. "Is it true? Did you really hook up with her cousin?" Then came the full-blown smear campaign. She told everyone her version, claimed I manipulated her into the open marriage just to justify cheating, said I'd targeted her younger cousin, lied for months, abandoned her like trash after she tried to save us. She painted herself as the wounded wife, the last one fighting for a love I'd already thrown away. It was all very convincing, except I had proof. I'd saved everything: messages, screenshots, voicemails, emails. All the receipts showing it had been her idea from the start, that she had partners, that she had laughed and said, "Loosen up, try it, have some fun." So I did what I had to. I never fabricated anything. I didn't go online to rant or expose her to the public. Quietly, I sent screenshots of our actual conversations to a small circle of close friends, the same people she'd been deceiving. I let them see the texts for themselves, the dates, the images, her smiling in other men's apartments. It didn't take long for the truth to spread. The fallout was immediate. Marcus, my best friend, called me up. "She's been lying nonstop, man," he said. Even her cousin, one of the guys she had secretly slept with, reached out. "I didn't know she was putting the blame on you. That's seriously messed up." The carefully curated image she had built began to unravel. But instead of facing what she had done or expressing even a shred of remorse, she doubled down. She called Lena's father, her uncle, and unleashed on him, accusing Lena of betrayal and claiming I had manipulated her. He didn't buy a word. He'd known Marissa too long, too well, understood her skill in bending reality to fit her story. "You created this disaster," he told her bluntly. That only made her spiral further. She called my parents, sobbing, insisting I was falling apart, emotionally unstable, maybe even dangerous. That same evening, my dad appeared at my door, arms crossed, jaw tight. "What's happening here, son?" I didn't argue. I handed over my phone. "Take a look." He scrolled silently, reviewing the messages, dates, names, and photos. After about 10 minutes, he looked up and quietly said, "I had no idea. I'm sorry." Then he pulled me in for a rare embrace and added, "Don't let her pull you back into that. Protect your peace." I promised him I would. But Marissa wasn't finished. She got a lawyer involved, announced she wanted a divorce, and declared she'd be pursuing alimony, part of my retirement, and compensation for emotional suffering. I turned to Carmen, a friend and seasoned divorce attorney. She examined everything, our messages, the documents, and the agreement we'd both signed when we opened the marriage. Her assessment was clear. She doesn't stand a chance. No children, no shared property, and nothing indicating mistreatment. And her spending records told another story. Luxury trips, upscale hotels, and designer shopping. Not exactly the lifestyle of someone crushed by heartbreak. Still, I wasn't careless. I put everything in order, organized folders, highlighted messages, created a detailed timeline of her actions and mine. When mediation day came, she showed up wearing all black, face bare, eyes puffy like she hadn't rested in days. When she saw me, her face froze, like she'd seen something she wasn't ready for. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the mediator. "I gave everything to him," she said, "and he threw me away like I was nothing." I didn't say a word. I just pushed a folder across the table. The mediator opened it, flipped through the pages, then turned to her. "Are these your texts?" Marissa didn't answer. She stared down, silent. And in that stillness, the image she'd tried to maintain crumbled. The mediator outlined the resolution: no alimony, divide the assets, and go separate ways. But she didn't want resolution. She wanted revenge. So she made one last move. She posted a black and white video, set to slow, mournful piano music, featuring a montage of our wedding photos. Her voice narrated over it. "I tried to love him. But sometimes, love just isn't enough." The video exploded overnight. Strangers flooded the comments with hate. They painted me as the villain. Lena wept when she watched it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't think she'd take it this far." I took her hand. "She's spiraling because she's losing control," I said. But I knew this wasn't going to be a clean exit. If Marissa was choosing war, then I'd respond. But not with rage, with clarity, with patience. With precision. Not to destroy her, but to dismantle the narrative she weaponized and turn it into the very thing that would liberate me. At that point, I had nothing left to shield and everything to reclaim. I wasn't looking to ruin her. I didn't want her to suffer or fall apart. That kind of spite burns out fast. But I did want the truth to reach her. I wanted her to feel the same powerless abandonment she had once left me with. So I played the long game. I rebuilt my foundation. Started waking at 5:30 a.m., ran every morning, brewed my own coffee, made clean breakfasts. My life grew still, disciplined. I upgraded my wardrobe, showed up at work ahead of time, and poured energy into my tasks. My supervisor noticed. 6 weeks in, I got promoted. It wasn't an overnight change, but it was steady, visible. And as my world grew stronger, hers started to crumble. She began messaging mutual friends, sometimes crying, sometimes apologizing, then suddenly accusatory. Jared, one of them, told me, "She asked if I'd spy on you. Wanted to know if you and Lena were serious or just a fling." I told him to keep her guessing, because by then I saw it clearly. This was never about Lena. It wasn't even about me anymore. It was all about control. So I did the one thing she never expected. I went completely silent. No texts, no replies to her emails. I scrolled past her mournful Instagram updates without a single like or comment. Just total absence. And that silence? It undid her in ways that arguments never could. A few evenings later, Lena and I went to a charity event. It was a semi-formal affair, and she looked effortlessly radiant in a deep green dress, her hair swept up with an understated elegance that turned heads without trying. Someone snapped a picture and posted it online. 2 days after that, Marissa showed up at my front door. "We need to talk," she said, her voice shaky, hands quivering at her sides. "I don't think that's a good idea," I told her, holding the door but not moving. "I'm not here to fight," she said quickly. I saw the pictures. You looked happy." I said nothing. "Do you love her?" she asked, her eyes searching mine for something familiar. I could have dodged it, could have said something cold and conclusive. But instead, I offered honesty. "I don't know yet, but she really sees me. She hears me. And not once has she made me feel like I'm just background noise." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why her?" she whispered. And for the first time, I really looked at her, not as the woman I had once built a life with, but as someone I no longer recognized. I told her something I had carried quietly for a long time. Because she reminded me of the person I used to be, before you made me feel small. Before love started to feel like a test, I kept failing. She stumbled back like I had physically hit her. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, barely audible. I gave a small shrug. "Maybe, but you did, and I'm not living in that version of my life anymore." She turned and left, her sobs echoing down the stairwell like a haunting refrain. But that wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. My next chapter wasn't hidden or quiet. It was intentional, visible, and meaningful. I was invited to speak at a leadership conference on resilience and ethical leadership. And I told my story. No names, no theatrics, just the truth, measured, clear. I talked about setting boundaries, about the silent toll of abandoning yourself for the sake of peace, about how withholding words can sometimes echo louder than speaking them. When I finished, the room fell into a deep stillness. Later, several people approached me. One woman, tears in her eyes, embraced me. She had just ended a painful relationship. "You helped me see things clearly," she whispered. That's when I understood something important. My pain had meaning. Then came the final act. I shared my story online, not to expose, not to retaliate, but to reclaim what had been mine all along, the narrative. It was raw and unfiltered, honest, not hostile. I wrote about what I had tolerated, what I had ignored, and ultimately, what I decided to walk away from. I named no one, but those who needed to recognize the truth did. The reaction was intense. Messages poured in, people thanked me, shared their own stories, and yes, Marissa saw it too. At 1:12 a.m. she sent a voice message. It lasted barely a minute. Her voice cracked throughout. She said she regretted everything, hated the person she had become, and thought I would always stay, no matter how far she pushed. "I was wrong," she said, "and I hope she loves you in a way I never could." I never responded, not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than any spoken truth. In that moment, it said everything. It's been over a year now, a year without the guilt trips, without the slow erosion of myself. Life is quieter, but it's a peace I'd forgotten existed, a silence that soothes instead of stings. My apartment is still a little cramped, still creaks in places, but now it feels like mine. No more pretending, no more masks, just authenticity. Lena's still here. We didn't rush into anything. We moved slowly, deliberately. There were challenges. Her father didn't look me in the eye for months. Some family members murmured behind our backs. But the truth, when it's real, has a way of cutting through all of that. We traveled. We binge-watched documentaries. We built flat-pack furniture together without the instructions. Burned the manuals and figured it out from scratch. She's the first person I've ever been with who doesn't need me to explain my silences. She just sits next to me and lets them exist. One night, sprawled on the floor with takeout and our legs tangled like teenagers, I looked at her and said, "This doesn't feel fair." She tilted her head. "Why not?" "Because I met you in the middle of my wreckage, and you stayed." She smiled gently. "Maybe I just like watching people rebuild." That's when it hit me. This story was never really about what broke. It's about what grew in its place. That doesn't mean everything is perfect now. Marissa still performs grief online, carefully curated sadness for sympathy. I don't reply. I don't correct the narrative. I don't engage. Because that chapter is finished. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't win by screaming your truth louder than the lies. You win by living a life where the lies can't survive. I've kept everything, the evidence, the timelines, the receipts, not for revenge, for remembrance. Because surviving isn't about vengeance. It's about restoration. It's about becoming whole again. When she held the power, she used it to twist love into something that erased who I was. But the moment I stood my ground, refusing to play the passive, agreeable role while she pursued whatever excitement caught her eye, she began to fall apart. She never truly wanted an open relationship. What she longed for was absolute freedom without having to answer for it. And when I gave her precisely what she claimed to need, she recoiled, because it forced her to confront a truth she could no longer avoid. Fairness was never her goal. What she chased was permission, to indulge without consequence. And me? I became the mirror she couldn't look away from. I didn't explode. I didn't shame her publicly. I just held steady, and the falsehoods she'd constructed started to collapse on their own. Since I first opened up about my experience at that initial seminar, I've been invited to speak at 4 more. Messages continue to pour in from across the country. Messages filled with gratitude from people who were on the verge of giving in to relationships that didn't feel right until they heard what I had endured. And beside me now is Lena, focused on her digital artwork, that peaceful concentration on her face that I've come to deeply appreciate. Her dog is curled up under the table, fast asleep. A slow jazz tune drifts through the background, steady, unbothered, untouched by all the turmoil we've left behind. This is what peace feels like, not her collapse, not her silence, not the ghostly echo of unread texts. But this, my equilibrium, my wholeness, and my commitment to never again letting someone else's chaos shape my world. So if you're reading this while standing in the place I once stood, trapped in a love that empties more than it fills, hear me clearly. Wanting tranquility doesn't make you weak. Craving something lasting doesn't make you boring. And walking away from someone who demands that you shrink yourself to keep them comfortable, that doesn't make you the villain. Sometimes the truest form of justice is found in quiet contentment. And that's what I hold on to now. She begged for freedom. I gave it to her. Then I walked away, carrying with me peace, understanding, and a partner who sees me not as a task, a trophy, or a test, but as someone to be chosen, and chosen freely. And I would trade every performative apology, every fake tear, every polished photo for that, without a second thought, every single time. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.